When Emily inherited her grandmother's old house, she expected a flood of nostalgia. Instead, she was met with dust-covered rooms and shadows from a past she'd never truly known. She wandered through each room, touching old furniture and feeling a lingering chill in the air. Finally, in a small drawer by her grandmother's bedside, she found an aged, leather-bound diary. The pages felt worn and ancient, as though they carried decades of stories. Eager to feel connected to her grandmother, Emily began to read. She was transported by each entry, captivated by stories about family gatherings, neighborhood feuds, and even moments of heartbreak. But as she read, a strange emptiness settled in her. Hours later, when she tried to recall some of the details she'd read, they seemed hazy, almost as if they'd slipped from her mind. Shrugging off the sensation, she placed the diary back in the drawer, unaware of the dark effect it would have. The next morning, Emily awoke with the strange urge to read more. As she opened the diary, she noticed something unusual. The page she'd read last night was gone. Confused, she flipped through the book, but found only blank pages where her grandmother's handwriting should have been. She felt unsettled, but convinced herself it was her imagination. As the day went on, however, small details around the house began to change. A family photo she had seen just yesterday was missing from the wall. Later, on a call with her mother, she tried to mention one of the stories from the diary, but her mother sounded puzzled and insisted she'd never heard of it. Emily brushed it off, but a nagging feeling kept her from letting it go. The thought echoed in her mind. Something was wrong with the diary and maybe even with her memories. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily found herself reading the diary more and more. The entries were addictive, filled with rich, vivid details of lives she never knew about. But with each entry she read, more pages vanished, leaving only blank sheets behind. Worse, the memories themselves seemed to disappear, not just from her mind, but from her family's history. Conversations she'd shared with her mother turned to confusion. Her mother denied the very events that Emily felt certain had once been real. The vanishing memories didn't stop with her family either. Emily's own childhood memories grew dim, replaced by a haze she couldn't penetrate. It was as though the diary had a hunger, consuming not just words, but the history itself. Frightened, but unable to resist, she read faster, desperate to understand what her grandmother had left behind. Each night, as another story vanished into the diary's depths, she felt herself slipping away. After days of relentless reading, Emily stumbled upon the diary's final entry, hidden between the last two pages. Her grandmother's writing was shaky, the words almost frantically scrawled, a confession. The truth poured out in a way that horrified Emily. Her grandmother had made a pact with something beyond human, a dark entity that had promised to erase painful memories. The price, Emily realized with a cold dread, was memory itself. Her grandmother had chosen to seal away the shameful events, using the diary as a vessel. But over time, the entity had come to demand more, feeding off each descendant's memories of the family's past. As Emily read, she understood that she had also been feeding it, her memories devoured by the diary with every page she consumed. Her entire family's history was slipping away. Emily felt trapped between preserving her family's legacy and losing herself entirely. Haunted by the revelation, Emily knew she had only one option left. She took the diary, her hands trembling, and carried it to the fireplace. The house felt colder, as if the walls themselves were watching her. As she struck a match, a shadow flickered, and she saw her grandmother's figure taking shape, a ghostly, twisted version, pleading with her to stop, let the memories go. Her grandmother's voice whispered, "Some things are better left forgotten." But Emily's mind was made up. She tossed the diary into the fire, ignoring the freezing sensation crawling up her spine. Flames leapt around the pages, filling the room with shadows and flickers of light. As the diary burned, memories she hadn't even realized were missing began to flash through her mind. She saw faces, moments of joy and sorrow. A flood of images she knew had been erased before her time overwhelmed her. It felt like a lifetime passing in mere seconds. And then, just as suddenly, it was over. The diary was gone, reduced to ashes. Emily collapsed by the fire, her mind reeling from the onslaught of images and emotions. It was over. The diary's curse had been broken at least, she hoped. The house was quiet. Emily felt as though something heavy had lifted. But the silence around her felt hollow, as if a part of her had burned with the diary. Her family's memories seemed to have returned in fragments, but some faces and moments were still missing, leaving a haunting emptiness she couldn't shake. As she packed her things to leave, she took one last look around the house. In her heart, she knew that while she had preserved some of her family's legacy, the full truth would never be known. Some things, once erased, could never truly come back. She left the house, a faint shadow of her grandmother's voice lingering in her mind, and walked away knowing that the story of her family would remain forever incomplete.